Former President Barack Obama is keeping busy behind the scenes preparing for 2020. Politico reports that he's already met secretly, well, not so secretly, with at least 9 potential 2020 presidential hopefuls, including Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, Joe Biden, Deval Patrick from Massachusetts, pulling them in for one-on-one sessions at his Washington office. The report adds that many of the conversations have centered around Democratic messaging heading into the midterms. Obama says Democrats should talk about kitchen table issues, economics, of course, not the rushed investigations. Quote, don't chase the shiny objects, he tells them. Don't hyperventilate over the flash of any tweet. Think about what's going on to stick. It's going to stick in the long term. Ginger, your thoughts on that? I mean, that sounds like old-time religion, but I don't think that's what's going to happen in the public debate because nobody covers those old-time religion things. They seem so basic, and everybody says that stuff.
I think the key takeaway here is to realize that unlike the Republicans had in 2012 and 2016, where they really didn't have a senior statesman who could step in and say, hey, guys, stop throwing bombs, stop attacking each other, stay on message and keep your eye on the prize. Barack Obama is willing to do that. And that could really change the tone and the tenure of the Democratic primary with his ability to mediate fights and to keep potential nominees from really damaging one another in the primary.
You think you'll go that far as to referee? In other words, you know, as they say in the in the NBA, I've been watching a lot of the playoffs. They say we're going to slow this game down. We're going to make sure it stays safe. We're going to call fouls whenever we can. You think he'll be that aggressive as a referee, Ginger?
He has the ability to. He has the ability to step in and try to make cooler heads prevail. Remember when Newt Gingrich and Mitt Romney were bloodying each other up in the 2012 primary? There was almost no one who could get them to stop, and it really hurt Mitt Romney's chances in the general election. It damaged his nomination. Barack Obama has the ability and is respected by these people who are running to intervene and try to get people to back down.
Ginger, you're further than the Times. What do you other guys think? What do you think, Eli? Do you think you'll get that involved in refereeing this thing?
No, I don't. I think if there's 20 Democratic candidates, how do any of them break through when the media environment is dictated by Donald Trump and everybody else is in a reactive posture? I think the former president is probably correct that if the Democrats are going to reach beyond the Democratic base, they are going to have to talk more about things like health care, about voting rights, about the environment, about things, and make an actual case other than just Trump is terrible and we're here to be a check on Donald Trump. That may be good enough to animate Democratic voters, and it may do some good with moderate voters. But I just think that when you have 20 candidates, when we get to the presidential primary season, potentially 20 candidates all trying to make a name for themselves, all trying to break through in a media environment where it's going to be hard for any of them to break through, frankly. I just think the advice of a former president, even one as well respected on the Democratic side as President Obama, is only going to take them so far.
It's hard to get press when you're way out there, number 15 or 20. 15 to 20 is going to be a hard effort to get under that second tier.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.